like to call to order our meeting of the naming committee for RM 150. Thank everyone for being here with us this evening. And as I call the meeting to order, I would like for us to go ahead and do the roll call, please.
Yes. Vanessa.
Here.
Fred.
Present.
Karen.
Here.
Lino. Nick.
Present.
Ronald.
Here.
Summer. Anthony.
Here.
Elizabeth. Gilbert.
Here, ma'am.
Bert.
Here.
Priscilla. I do see Priscilla
Yeah,
online.
she's here. Yeah.
I will mark her present.
Yes. Priscilla,
Alicia-
can you hear us? Because it doesn't look like she can hear us.
No. Steve, if you would message her.
Priscilla, can you hear us?
She's sent a message.
Okay. Alicia. David. That's it.
Okay.
You didn't call me.
Oh, you sure didn't, Wilma.
Wilma.
Here I am.
Thank you.
We know she's there.
Okay. All righty then. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Hopefully, everybody has had a chance to take a look at the minutes of the last meeting. Please let us know if you see any corrections, any additions, anything that needs to be added to the minutes from our December 2nd meeting.
Motion to approve.
Okay. We have a motion to approve.
My motion to second.
We have a motion to second. That came from Karen. I heard a second one, but Karen to my right here. All right, all those approve of the minutes, say aye.
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 Okay. All right, looks like it was unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, at this time, we are going to hear citizens' comments. We have two citizens who have signed up to speak at the meeting this evening. Let me remind you that please limit your comments to about 3 minutes, and we will have Samantha call you up to address the committee as well as to give your comments to us. So at this time.
The first speaker we have signed up is Laura McMahon.
Okay.
Good evening. Can you all hear me with this mask on?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for coming.
Okay. Okay. My name is Laura McMahon. I'm here once again to advocate for the renaming of FM 150, formerly Rebel Road, to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Street. The reason I selected street this time is because I did some research. Boulevard is a wide street with a town typically lined with trees. Avenue is a broad road in a town or city that has trees or regular intervals along its sides. And a street is a public road in a city or town with houses and buildings on one or both sides. So a street would apply. I've been watching your meetings online. I attend city council meetings. I go to school board meetings, so I'm very active in what's going on. I've expressed before how symbolic it would be to relate the negative association with the previous name to a positive and uplifting, inclusive one for our community. I just have a few more reflections or point of view I want to get across that came across recently. On June 19th of this year, I don't know if you knew it, the City of Kyle held an inaugural Dialogue for Peace and Progress Summit where both myself, Ms. Westbrook, and other community members may have attended. If you're interested to watch it, it's available online on YouTube. That particular date was symbolic because it marks our country's second Independence Day, and it emphasized the Day of Peace, once again, Juneteenth. Just to share a little history, in 1980, Texas was the first state to declare Juneteenth as a national holiday, which ended slavery. The purpose of the summit was to bring the community together by discussing various policy procedures with law enforcement, the community, the emotional state, and what we can do to unify and connect our diverse community. Councilman Ellison, he quoted Mr. Lloyd Ellison, which was his father and an activist, and he said, "We must know and understand what it is that we want changed in order for it to be changed. And education for the public is important for this to happen." At this summit, it was realized by the city that changes were needed and would happen with our community's assistance. Another point I just want to make very briefly. Last week, I attended the playoff football game for Hayes High School. The band themselves performed a tribute to the graduating seniors by dedicating their theme as titled "Moving Forward." They quoted Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stating, "If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. Whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward." Dr. King was encouraging youth to not be pessimistic and urged them to move forward and fight for their rights and justice. I believe the community and those in education and everybody around, they're both representing the importance of moving forward by renaming F-150 to Dr. Martin Luther King. I believe it will be a step in the right direction, and I hope you would take this under consideration. One more point I want to make before I close. I've attended city council meetings. As you're aware, there's not many community members that attend. The reason the city of council decided to change FM 150 to Fajita Road was because there was one particular community member who attended the meeting. And when they attended the meeting, they told them, "Do what you need to do. You don't need a community input." So I just want to reflect on the city council. They were doing what they were told to do. A lot of people don't know that because they don't attend these meetings, but they are doing what's best interest for our community, and they were doing it at the request of one of the community members. So on that note, I hope you will take Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s name into consideration. It would be a great thing for our city. It would put us on the mark, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ma'am.
Before I call the next speaker, for the record, I want to count David Glickler is now attending virtually and
Okay,
online.
thank you.
The next speaker we have signed up for citizen comment is Carmen Hammond.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to come. I'm here to talk about renaming FM 150 to Veterans Drive. I am a veteran, obviously. I'm the commander of AMVETS, which is on, hopefully, Veterans Drive. I just want to point out a few things. You know, we've had a lot of wars. We're still in war. There's still an awful lot of veterans. Every one of them in their era that they fought, they have been appreciated, except for one war or skirmish that we have. That's Vietnam. My feeling is that if we was to name this Veterans Drive, that's one step closer to showing the Vietnam veterans that sacrificed an awful lot for us, that we appreciate what they did. Since 9/11, our soldiers and our military has been recognized, and that's the greatest thing going, because the Vietnam veterans have made it their efforts to make sure that the new military people did not go through the same thing we did. Has anybody in the Vietnam era? You were not a Vietnam era.
I was.
You were?
I went through the lottery system and just happened to get a high number.
Yeah, so
I was in college at the
walking
time.
through the airport, which said nasty things to you, called you baby killer,
Yep.
things thrown at you. It was a very unpopular war, but naming that road Veteran Drive would be one step closer to closing that attitude, I guess is the best way to say it. If you're not aware, there are 6 different veterans organizations in the local area. And I'm on the steering committee to start to work on the Heroes Monument that Kyle is putting together. I moved from Dripping Springs, just so you know. I come to Kyle, and I was disappointed that there was nothing here recognizing our veterans. This is a great step forward. It would be my honor to say that AMVETS is on Veterans Drive, and if you name it Veterans Drive, we will keep that drive clean. Through the road program. Also, our property will be available for dedication as well. But not only will you be honoring the veterans, but you'll also be honoring the Blue Star mothers and the Gold Star mothers. If you don't know who they are, Blue Stars mothers, they have their children are military. Gold Star, their mothers, they lost somebody in battle. So you'll not only be honoring the veterans, but also the widows. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to say I certainly appreciate both of our citizens coming out this evening and addressing us. We have been encouraging citizens throughout our process to please come and share your thoughts with us. We were able to meet with a lot of our neighbors and citizens around the city in gathering names. And if you've been following us, you know that we've been going through a process to first find out if there was a repeat of the suggested name, and then having discussion about suggested names. And so we've encouraged folks to either virtually come and meet with us or come before us at one of our meetings to share their thoughts on the work that we're doing. So again, I would like to thank both of you very much for coming out and spending some time with us to give us some insights on the work before us. So thank you both again. All righty then. Yes.
Is it all right if we leave? We've got another.
Oh, yes, yes, sir, by all means. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so at this point in time, we are going to continue with our process. As you remember, at our last meeting, we had looked at our list thoroughly, had voted, and we ended up with 8 names on our list that we were going to go into a discussion about this evening. One of the things that I've done is I have asked some members of our committee to give us background information on the 8 names that we were going to be focusing on tonight, just as a reminder. And I actually asked the folks who submitted the name in the beginning to provide us a little bit of information. Actually, their homework assignment was to go and find out as much more information that you possibly can to be able to share with us tonight. Some of the names we talked about a few weeks ago when we had our first list, and so those names may not be as rememberable, not the names themselves, but the information behind them. So I wanted us to get like a recap on the information that was submitted in regards to the name. And we referred to that as a rationale, basically. What reason do we have to look at in regards to this particular name being on the list? 8 names rose to the top. And so at this point in time, I am going to have either Steve or Samantha to read the 8 names to us, and then I will take each name and ask a specific person that was assigned to give us more information about that name to kind of give us a recap. So Samantha, I'm going to switch it over to you, and let you talk a little bit about our process in case anybody happens to be looking at us for the first time. What have we done thus far? And just a reminder of where we were to the point that we are right now as we start looking at these 8 names. So Samantha, if you're okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So tonight, as you mentioned, we are going to review the street names. The process is going to be a little bit different than the past ones because we have narrowed them down to that top 8. So tonight, instead of the green, yellow, and red, every committee member only has a green. So as we go through the top 8, the committee member that sponsored that street name will talk about the background and any description that they have for it. And then we'll go roll call down each committee or each name, and all committee members will raise their green circle for only 3 names. So of the 8, you will choose 3, and you will do that by raising your green circle when that street name is called. So that's the process that we're going to follow this evening. Again, this is the criteria on the screen. You've seen this every single meeting for a while now, the criteria that we use to get to this point. This is straight from our city's code. And just a reminder of how we started with 72 names that were considered. The first thing that was looked at is it a duplicate? Which Steve did the work on that. So of the 72, 17 were removed because of it being a duplicate or something similar in the area that would cause a concern with our emergency management. Then 47 were then removed by committee using that red, yellow, green circle method that we've used over the last couple meetings. And then that leaves us tonight with these 8 that we were going to review. And again, using the green circle to choose the top 3. So that leaves us to the 8, and those are now on the screen. And I think, Chair, if I understand, we are going to let the sponsor for each of these speak on
Right.
behalf of those
Yes.
first.
Yeah,
So-
like for all of the, a sponsor or perhaps a proxy may be speaking for each name. And then once each name has been read, information has been given about that name, and we've gone through that list, then we're going to go back and vote. So I don't want us to vote, hear the information, vote, hear the information, vote. Let's get to all of the information first, and then we'll go back to the top of the list, and then we'll vote that way. So hopefully everybody understands that you get to pick 3 of the 8, and then those 3 of the 8 will have a discussion about what will happen next, because that would be our next meeting, which would be on January the 6th. So as you all can probably tell, we're getting this narrowed down now, and we're a long ways from where we were when we first got started, when we had a list of names and figured out what was the best way to do this. We came up with a great plan, and so we're going to move forward with that. It looks like the names are, I was about to say, is there an echo?
Got it.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we're going to start in looking at the first name on the list, which is Albert Taylor Street, and that was submitted by me. And here's some information to remind you of, and some more information that I've found. And I've had some assistance from some of the Hays County Historical Commission members, Ms. Lila Knight and Ms. Maury Bassett, who were gracious enough in their love of history to give me even more information than I started off with. So Albert Taylor was born in 1885, and he died in 1918. Unfortunately, he died of pneumonia that was connected to the big influenza epidemic that was going on at the time. Now, there is a record of Albert Taylor's cleaning and pressing shop that was located on Front Street in 1912. There's actually a map that shows the shop, but it does not state whether or not Mr. Taylor owned the building. Mr. Taylor was one of 5 black-owned businesses in downtown Kyle, along with the Sewell brothers, George, who had a grocery store, John, who had a cafe, and Jeff, who had a barbershop. The 5th businessman's name was Kirby Smith, and he also had a barbershop. So these businesses were just right up the street from us. And notice the time, it was 1912. Records do show that Mr. Taylor had purchased property on the northeast corner of D.E. Moore Addition for $250 in May of 1912. So he actually owned property where he had his residence. There was a newspaper clipping that we found about his business in the Kyle News on March 1929, 1918, where it gave advertisement of his work and services, and he was described as a professional tailor. Other information we found out about him was that he was signed up to go into World War I. We found his registration card. It gave his address of Kyle, Texas. His registration card was, from what we could tell, was somewhere between 1917 and 1918. However, as I stated earlier, Mr. Taylor died in 1918, so we're assuming that perhaps he died before he went into World War I. The reason why his name was brought up is because this was a businessman back in the early 1900s, an African-American man more specifically, who had a business in downtown Kyle that provided services to the citizens of Kyle, from what we can tell by the advertisement in the newspaper clipping. The Sewell brothers already have a street named after them. It didn't specifically give information to one of the other brothers. It's just called Sewell Street or Sewell Drive, one of the two. And then from what we can also find out, there happens to be a street with a name of Smith in it also. So that perhaps was connected to the other barber, who was Kirby Smith. So that was the information that I found out about Albert Clarence Taylor, born 1885, died 1918, who was an African-American businessman in the early 1900s. Okay. Oh, the next one is mine too. All right. So the next name on the list is, anybody have any questions, by the way? Okay. Tried to get as much information as I could. All right. The next name on the list is Driftwood Drive. That I also submitted that name, and that was given to me by a citizen, and I actually couldn't find how that citizen got that information to me. You know, there were several ways, because I know somebody had dropped off a letter or something like that. But anyway, the information that I put in regards to Driftwood Drive was that the citizen suggested that the rationale for this road in question could be used it could be used in order to name the road Driftwood. And basically, the citizen said, well, how else are you going to get there? Meaning, how are you going to get from Kyle to Driftwood? Well, I actually did look that up. And using some local maps from the city of Kyle, Driftwood is about 6.4 miles from Kyle. But there's actually 3 ways you can get to Driftwood. You can take FM 1626 to FM 967. That's one way of getting there. You can go FM 1626 to FM 2770 to REM 150 to get to Driftwood. And then you can also take Center Street to 150 to RM 150 to FM 150. So technically, there's a couple of different ways that you can get to Driftwood from here, looking at that roundabout of a 6.4 miles here from Kyle. So that's the information that I have about that, that particular street suggestion to share with the committee. Any questions? All right. So the next street name that we're looking at is Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And of course, we had a citizen here, Ms. McMahon, who actually asked for a change of boulevard to street, but we can talk about that part later. And I'm actually not going to speak to that. We're going to have one of our members to speak on that behalf, and that is Ms. Wilma Jarvie. So Wilma? Yes, ma'am.
I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the specifics of Martin Luther King, because I think everybody knows pretty much who he is and what he did. So my recommendation, I'm going to talk about why, my rationale for why I think it should be named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I said road, but road or street is okay with me. I'm a fairly new resident of Kyle, and I did try to do some research into the history of African Americans in the city, but I wasn't able to find a lot of information over the net. And I know people have talked about books that there are, but I have not been to the library. I'm waiting for COVID to settle down a little bit. I did discover, though, that African Americans have lived in this area since around the 17th century. And I drive through the city, and I've noticed that many of the street names honor members of Kyle's ethnic communities. Until Vanessa just spoke, I was only aware of one street that was easily recognized as honoring an African American, and that was James Atkins Drive. Steve did inform us earlier that there was a street named Miller, but I really doubt that most of the residents are aware that it, or even associates it with Dory Miller, the African-American hero from World War I. And Vanessa just informed me that there's a Soul and a Smith streets, which are probably named after African-American residents who, until now, I was unaware of. Although Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. influenced African American treatment in society in a profound way, he also wanted to change society for the betterment and the civil rights of all people, regardless of their races. So I think naming the road for him will recognize the results of his civil rights advocacy, in addition to showing appreciation for the sacrifices that he made for the movement. I think for African Americans, naming the street Dr. Martin Luther King Drive or Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Street will create a sense of acceptance by the community and recognition of African American historical contributions. And I think for the community, based upon the things that Ms. McCann has said about the dialogue that they had last Juneteenth, it can open up discussions for the needed continuation of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s work. So I really hope that you will give it consideration.
All righty then, we're at name number 4 now, Freedom Way, and that would be my distinguished colleague to my left, Fred.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think a couple of points I want to make, both about Freedom Way and the Herrera Drive. Perhaps unlike some of you, these were not my choices. These were two names that were forwarded to me, and I simply served as a conduit to get them to this committee. Freedom Way apparently has made it this way in an effort to try to get more information from the person who provided the name. They declined to do so. So it was not my job to do their work for them. So for purposes of this meeting tonight, I have nothing to share with you about Freedom Drive other than we all know what freedom means. That's one. The Sylvester Herrera Drive, that too was forwarded to me, oddly enough, by a Vietnam War veteran who lives here in Kyle. Each one of you should have received a 2 or 3 page information on this veteran. Briefly, I will tell you, and when I served on the city council, one of the things I hated was for staff to sit at their chairs and read to me. So I'm not going to read to you what I sent you. But I will say that this veteran was born in Mexico, grew up in Texas, is the only veteran, U.S. veteran, American veteran that was ever received the highest honor, Purple Heart, from both from 2 countries, one from the U.S. and one from Mexico. The purpose or the reason why he received his medals were given to you in the information I sent you. So on behalf of the person that gave it to me, I offer that name to you. And I'll attempt to answer your questions, but I really can't. So those are my 2.
I'd like to correct, he wasn't awarded Purple Heart in Mexico. He was awarded their highest, which was equivalent to the Medal of Honor.
Yeah, I didn't say it was a
Purple
Heart. Thank you.
Can't hear.
Sorry about that. He was correcting you. He said that he didn't say he had a Purple Heart, and I said, yeah, he did. He said it by accident. So, but thanks for that point of clarification. Gilbert, was that Gilbert who was speaking? Or was it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's kind of hard to tell. Thank you, Gilbert, for clarifying that for us. All right, Priscilla, your hand was up.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Was Mr. Herrera, did he live in Texas or he was just from Mexico?
Did you have a chance to read what I sent you?
I did, but I just don't remember.
He was born in Mexico but raised in Texas. That was in the information I sent.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so we've covered Herrera and Herrera and Freedom Way. So now we're on Veterans Drive, and Ms. Priscilla will speak to us on behalf of Veterans Drive. She submitted that into our information portal. Priscilla.
Yes, thank you. To me, the word veteran means fighting for and protecting the people and the country that they love. It means making a lot of sacrifices, having courage, and knowing people have respect for them. It takes a lot of courage for people to say that they want to be in the military. Without the service of our veterans, we would not have the freedom we have today. What makes our veterans special? The integrity, the service, the courage, duty, honor, commitment, country, and sacrifice are the words that best describes our veterans to me. I think that we all have challenging days, but our difficulties are not compared with what the veterans had faced during the war. I am sure everyone here today has a family member or friend that is a veteran. I would like to see all veterans, not just one, but all who have served or are serving from the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard to be honored and never forgotten. I am asking the committee today to please give a yes vote to Veterans Drive to honor veterans from all over and especially here in Kyle, Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. Appreciate that.
You're
All
welcome.
righty. Any questions? Anybody? Okay. We'll go on to our next name, Dr. James White Drive, and our colleague Anthony Davis will speak on his behalf. On this name, he submitted into the portal. Anthony? Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. So Dr. James H. White was born March 13th, 1866 in San Marcos, Texas. It was from there he continued up the ranks going through education, and he earned his doctorate down in what used to be South Texas State University? Not Southwest, but further. From there, he and other doctors like J.C. Carpenter and F.R. Martin came to the Kyle area in order to serve our medical needs. It was in there that Kyle appointed him as the first city physician under the title of City Health Officer in 1906 after moving to Kyle. It is also here where he met and married Nellie Bly, who he married in 1910 and had a daughter also named Nellie, interestingly enough, who is currently buried in Victoria, Texas. During his service, Dr. White was the only physician who found it necessary to quarantine the town during the smallpox epidemic of 1909 and the January 1912 outbreak of cerebrospinal meningitis. It was until 1914 that the city finally went ahead and found someone else to appoint. Couldn't find who, but he served until 1914. It was from there that Dr. James White continued to make house calls to neighboring cities, not just here in Kyle. And he continued to do that all the way into the Great Depression, where he finally made it to Kingsville, Texas, where he died on March 25th, 1913, in the northern Tejano neighborhood of North Kingsville. There he mainly treated the symptoms of tuberculosis and pneumonia, which during this time was typically caused by the rampant influenza. Now, I wanted to go ahead and put this out there. I wasn't quite sure whether or not I should submit something considering what this name used to be, but considering the current ongoing pandemic, I thought if we had a doctor somewhere that was actually named, that we had a room named after, that we could have in order to honor our medical professionals, honor our physicians, honor great doctors in this area, especially considering I couldn't find any connection for this area, that he was connected in some way to the Confederacy or white supremacist. Apparently he even died helping out the Texas Mexican Tejanos down in Kingsville. And so I think this would be a nice little addition. And this is all coming from Anstrom's book on pages 43 and 49 and the City Records of Kyle, Volume 1.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that information. Questions, anyone? Okay. All right, the last name on the list is Resilience Drive, and our colleague Bert will give us more information on resilience. I asked him to provide us additional information as this name was moved forward with the rest of them. Bert, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So resilience, and I'll go into the definition, origin, and then some examples of the use of the word. An ability to recover from or adjust easily to a misfortune or change. And the origins of resilience, it's a noun, and it basically means the act of rebounding, coming back. First used around the 1620s, then it kind of took a little break in history and came back around the 1830s. But for the most part, resilience has always been to recoil, rebound, come back from either adversity or springing back. Examples of a good use of resilience in the wake of a natural disaster, physiological and physical support to help people recover. The first step towards achieving this goal is designed to foster individual community resilience and providing leadership, but not any kind of leadership. Resilience focused leadership. So then I go into why we want to use resilience. Well, resilience would be an opportunity to showcase our community strengths and unity. We are a diverse community who stick together in times of great adversity and see the greatness in our neighbors. We have great faith that through any challenges we'll always get through. We are not rebels. Instead, we are a resilient community. And by naming FM 150 Resilience, we remind ourselves that no matter what adversity or difficulties we may face, we shall overcome. And I get the definition of the word from Webster and a example of the word from Psychology Today, 16th October 2017 article, Recovering from an Active Burial. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
All right, thank you so much for providing that additional information to us as we now think about the task before us. Again, I want to thank everybody who gave us additional information or reminded us information about the 8 names that we have before us that we will be voting on in just a minute. I also wanted to remind everyone that there's 8 names, you get 3 votes. So we'll call each name one at a time. Samantha will call a name. You will raise your green circle if you're voting for that particular name. If you're not, then keep your circle down. And then once we get through the end of all 8 names, we will see what the tally is at that point. The 3 names with the largest number of green will go on to the next category, which means that we'll have more discussion about those 3 names. However, I do want to let you know that we're going to leave the meeting today with those 3 names to allow you some time to go back and have conversation with friends, families, neighbors, etc. on those 3 names. We've been getting quite a bit of information from our friends and neighbors and citizens over the past few weeks now. Well, I could say months now. So I suspect that will still be the case. I think there's even an article in the newspaper every time we meet. So we'll give them something to talk about. So again, think about the 8 names before you. We'll start the roll call in just a minute with those names. vote for the 3 that you would like to go on into the next round. We'll see how we end up at the end of all 8 names being called. And then our next task will be to go have conversations, see what people are saying, and then when we have our next meeting on January the 6th, we'll have another vote. And actually, if anybody has any more information they want to bring forth to us about those 3 names, then we'll do that. I do want to say this. I so appreciate the time and efforts of the committee members thus far. Those of us who have come to meetings and who have been able to go and find information to share, to talk with others, I appreciate your time. This is a volunteer group, and all our interest is to serve our community in this humble way of just providing a service. So thank each of you for your time. I also appreciate how we have been very respectful to each other. There have been 1 or 2 times where we needed to home in on that a little bit, but overall, I think this was a great committee to work for. Our work is not quite done yet, but I do want you to know that I'm highly appreciative of the time and energy that you have put into working on this committee. So with that said, I think we are about ready to start our vote.
Okay, and before we begin, just a reminder, you should only be raising your green circle or your hand 3 times of the 8 names that we review. So starting at the top, Albert Taylor Street. I'm going to lean on you, Steve, to give us the okay when you have. And if everyone online will keep their video on until Steve has a final count. Okay, we have the count. Moving on to the next name, Driftwood Drive. Moving to Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Okay, next is Freedom Way. Next is Sylvester Herrera Drive. Veterans Drive. Dr. James White Drive. And last is Resilience Drive. Give Steve a minute to tally and give us our top votes.
Okay. Yeah, so we have 11 members voting today, and I counted 33 total votes, so that's 3 per person. That sounds correct to me. In first place, with 10 votes, Veterans Drive. In second place with 6 votes, Resilience Drive. And we actually have 2 names with 5 votes each.
Okay.
Yeah.
Albert Taylor Street and Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, or Street.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could we check the totals? Because I only voted twice, so I don't think we're going to have 33.
Okay. So maybe he said he only voted twice, so maybe 32.
Okay.
I also only voted.
Who said that? Oh, Bert, how many times did you vote? Twice?
2 times, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I also only voted twice.
Okay.
Okay, then.
Well.
I didn't record by person, so
16.
I don't know how to resolve that.
Okay.
I think we're going to do this again.
I think we're going to do this again. And we're going to have to, now, one of the things that I did note with our committee members that were virtual, most of you were holding up something. So let's make sure that we do that again. And it didn't seem like at the first, I saw that. I saw like a hand, and then I saw a circle, or I saw a tag or something that said green on it. So let's go back and revote.
And Madam Chair, can I
Yes.
recommend we
Yes.
do a roll call? Now that everyone has reviewed the names and they have voted, we could go back in the video this time. If we just roll call each committee member and you just give us your top 3.
Okay.
Or 2 for that matter.
Okay.
Would that be okay?
Yeah. Are you guys okay with that? We'll do a roll call?
We
Okay.
need to
That'll make it certainly more accurate since we're missing
And
3
then we'll be
per
clear.
se.
Are you okay to tally them if I call them?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to start virtual, so I make sure that I get everyone
everybody.
online in order. So Gilbert, will you give your top 3, please, sir?
I only vote for 2, veterans and resilience.
Okay. You tell me when, Steve. Just tell me when you have them recorded, and I'll go to the next name.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Priscilla.
My vote is for veterans, Dr. James White Drive, and Resilience Drive.
Okay, thank you. Bert? Oh, I can't hear you.
You're on mute, Bert.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
Dr. Martin Luther King Drive, Resilience, and Veterans.
Okay, Nick, you're up.
Albert Taylor Street, Veterans Drive, Dr. James White Drive.
David Glickler?
Freedom Way, Veterans Drive, Resilience Drive.
And now we're going to move in person on the
Priscilla.
die.
Priscilla.
We did Priscilla.
Oh, did you? Okay, I'm sorry, I
Yes.
missed that. Okay.
Okay.
Just want to make sure I got everybody. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to move to the dais. I'm going to start on my left. Ronald?
Okay.
My 2 were Driftwood Drive and Veterans Drive.
Karen?
I voted for Veterans Drive, for Resilience Drive, and for Freedom Way.
Vanessa?
My votes were for Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, Veterans Drive, and Albert Taylor Street.
Fred?
Martin Luther King, Freedom Way, and Herrera Drive.
Anthony?
My votes were for Albert Taylor Street, Veterans Drive, and Dr. James White Drive.
Elizabeth?
My votes are for Veterans Drive, Albert Taylor Street, and Martin Luther King Jr. Street.
Wilma.
My votes were for Martin Luther King Jr. Street, Albert Taylor Street, and Veterans Drive.
Thank you. So we'll give Steve a minute to retally and see what the numbers are this time.
It looks like we got a three-way tie. For one.
All right, now we have Veterans Drive with 11 votes and 3 names with 5 votes each.
So I got 2.
Albert Taylor Street, Martin Luther King Jr., and Resilience.
Okay. All right. I'm good with 4. That will take us into our next round, where we're going to narrow it down to 1. Okay? So at this time, I'm going to make the suggestion that with those 4 names, so we've got half of them off the plate. I know we were going with 3, but with a 3-way tie, which I actually saw that coming as we were tallying them up. We'll take the 4, and so my task for each of you is to go and have a discussion, as I said earlier, with neighbors, friends, families, etc., who live in the area about these 4 names. And when we come back together on January the 6th, we will have another vote to determine the one name that will go forth that we'll be sending on to City Council. Now, I did want to remind you of this. We've moved through this process well, as far as I could see. Anybody that submitted a name to us, that name came before us and was discussed if it made it through the first round of not being a repeat or in some kind of jeopardy with the emergency services. I don't want anyone saying they didn't say anything about my name. That was not the case at all. If we received the name, we had a discussion about it, and we've moved through this process now to have us now have 4 names that we're going to have a discussion about. If there is an additional information that someone would like to bring forth to us about one of these 4 names for the next meeting, we will certainly have that discussion. Any information anybody want to share, bring it forth, and we will vote again. Ultimately, our goal is that we're going to have 1 name. And so if next time we are voting and we come up with a tie, then we're going to have some kind of secondary something going on so that we could get rid of a tie. So we have our one that rises up to the top so we can go forth here, okay? And so actually we really didn't have that problem with the first name. It was the other 3 that tied. And so think about, what you want to do with these other 3, and maybe we may not have that problem the next time either by the look of what we did today. But again, I want us to have a little bit of discussion. It's almost 7 o'clock, and our meeting the last time took quite a bit of time. I was trying to keep us within that hour time frame this time. I do respect your time. And so are there any questions about our next phase?
Just one question. Would you very quickly list the 4 again?
Yes.
I have it. It's Veterans Drive,
Okay.
Albert Taylor Street,
Okay.
Martin Luther King Jr. Street,
Okay.
and Resilience
Okay.
Drive.
And the intent in January is to pick one of those, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So one other thing I want to bring up also, committee members, is that our schedule can you pull up that last slide, number 6? Okay. Our schedule has 3 more meetings left, right? The one on the 6th, we know what that one is about. The one on the 20th and the 27th, we'll have a little bit of discussion about with staff. We did tell the community about our timeline and our schedule. We are offering people to be able to come in and give us some feedback on these names. And so right now, I'm not going to say let's cancel those meetings, because we did tell people that this is the time to come forth and speak. So I'm not canceling any of these meetings at the moment. They're just going to stay on the books for now. And perhaps we'll make a decision at the next meeting what we want to do. I for sure won't be throwing both of them away, but I do want to have the opportunity for citizens to be able to come in and make a comment. And now with us narrowing down to 4 names, that might be exactly what may happen with these 2 additional meetings on January the 20th and the 27th. So I just want you to keep that on your schedule for now. Don't do away with them. And then we'll see how things move along, especially if we start hearing back from staff that people are calling, wanting to come in and speak and that kind of thing. At one of these meetings, we had told them, that January we had 3 meetings set. So I'm not canceling anything. So I just want to make sure that everybody was clear about that before we leave today. And the next time we will see each other will be on January the 6th in 2021. I'd like for someone to move that we adjourn.
So move.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
And second.
All right. All righty. I thank everybody so much for your time. Have a wonderful holiday, however you're going to celebrate it.
I just noticed we're meeting on the
You too.
January 20th.
January 20th.
It's an important day.
Yes, it is.
America.
All right, everybody.
What was it? The mayor of France says, "Welcome back, America."
We'll see. All right, everybody. Y'all have a good holiday. Thank you so much. All right.